What is going on, everyone? Matthew.scoletti back to you, Living the Dream podcast. We are talking about what in the heck determines success. What determines success? And we're going to see if we can work our way to that answer through a story and through this podcast episode. I want to tell you a little story about somebody. And as I'm telling you the story, think about who I might be talking about and see if you can guess this one. But I'm going to give you the story of this young man growing up. He grew up in the inner city, poor neighborhood with a ton of crime going on in the neighborhood. His mom was on drugs. His father left him and his family when this kid was only 6 months old. So he never really met his real dad. Changed schools, grade school, high school, an average of 3 times per year. So he's only in each school for 2 to 4 months and then boom, moving schools. He was beat up every single day before, during, or after school. Sometimes it was during school. Difficult situation. He always was walking around with a black eye. He was always getting beat up. His uncle became his father figure since his real dad left at 6 months old. And then a tragedy happened that his uncle took his own life. And this young kid who looked up to his uncle then found his uncle who had committed suicide. Brutally, I mean, the boy was devastated, especially because he looked up to this uncle as a father figure. He got evicted. Him and his family got evicted from their trailer home shortly after this. He would spend his days at Burger King with only 25 cents, 50 cents, because Burger King, they would let you, if you bought a large Coke, they'd let you sit in the dining room for as long as you wanted. So he would sit in the dining room for 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 hours a day and night. Eventually, he dropped out of high school because the beatings were so bad and he hated it. One of the worst circumstances I've ever seen in a human being in my life. And I would bet you've heard of this guy before in your life. Think about it. Do you have any guesses as I'm talking through this biography of this brutally difficult circumstances? This young kid found something that he liked. He found something that he liked and he worked at it. He got laughed. He had jokes made about him constantly as he tried to improve his craft in this area. He worked at it. He was horrible at first. Worked at it, got a little bit better, still got laughed at, kept working, kept loving what he was doing, and kept growing. And then some might call it luck, but as we know, that's preparation meeting opportunity. He prepared, he worked his butt off, and then he got an opportunity that he was ready for to make it to the big time. And what he did was he used hatred. He used tough, difficult stories that happened to him and just a horrible upbringing and difficult life as the fuel to push him forward. And he would use that as fuel while honing his craft. You got to guess? You know who this is? Well, this is the same person that has sold over 250 million albums since he came out in 1997, I think was the first album, the first real album that he did with Dr. Dre. We're talking about the one, the only Eminem, who I believe is a lyrical genius. And I understand his lyrics can be harsh. And I understand that I don't know him personally, but this is a story about getting to the top of success after being in probably one of the most brutal upbringings that I think I've ever heard of in my entire life. And I don't know if he has a book out or something, but I'd be fascinated to dive deeper into it. I do know that he was flown out to meet with Dr. Dre for the first time after he heard one of his mixtapes. And when he flew back home, when Eminem flew back home, he thought it was over. He thought, all right, that was a really cool thing, meeting one of his idols, but he didn't think it was going to happen for him. And when he flew back, he got evicted. That's when he got evicted. So as soon as he thought it was over, then he gets evicted and these things start stacking on top of each other. But he turns out to be one of the highest selling, he may be the biggest selling hip hop artist of all time. And he's up there as far as any artist of any generation album sales. So what's the point? Why am I telling you the story? Clearly, I think it's an inspiring story. I think it's an incredible, a lot of different inspiring stories about coming up with a tough upbringing and individuals making it. I love all of those stories. I want to share more of those because I think they are inspiring. But the point is this, excuse me. The point is we're talking about what determines success. And if you look at Eminem's story, you look at a ton of other people's stories. I'm a Jay-Z fan. You look at 50 Cent. You look at some of these in the hip hop world. You look at some CEOs that have come from backgrounds that really weren't much of anything, and now they've made it in the CEO world, the business world, the rap world, the financial world, the sports world. There's stories all over the place. And the point is this. What determines success is not your circumstances, because all of these individuals are proving it. They've come up in a difficult upbringing. They haven't really had a role model they can look up to, but with grit, determination, drive, and hard work, they found the way to get successful, and not even successful, I mean, blow the roof off of success. I would bet you talk to all of these big names, men and women, some of them may be surprised that they became as hugely successful as they did, but they did. Point being, circumstances do not determine success. They could help sway one way or the other, but as we heard many stories, especially Eminem's, he had horrible circumstances, still reached the pinnacle of the music business, which is just blows my mind still. And I'm sure if you're listening to this, maybe you've been through a rough circumstance. Maybe you're going through one right now. Maybe it's a difficult time for you. And the point is that your circumstances, whatever difficult time you're going through right this second, that does not determine your destiny unless you let it. I'm sure that there's some really tough stories out there. And I'm sure if somebody's listening to this, you're thinking, I'm in a brutally tough situation and I feel for you and I'm praying for you and I'm rooting for you. But the point is that your decisions shape the destiny, not the circumstances. And that's the whole point of this podcast episode. If there's one takeaway I ask you to grasp and to freaking run with, it is your decisions determine your destiny, not your circumstances. So you're going through that tough time, keep going. I think it was Winston Churchill that said, if you're going through hell, keep going. Don't stop, right? If you stop, you stay in hell. If you keep going, you find a way out on the other side. Decisions shape your destiny. Eminem chose. He made the decision to work his butt off for years to shape his destiny. The takeaway is this. I end it with a question, which is, what is a decision you could make today, right this second, that could change the trajectory of your life? Remember, it doesn't have to be massive changes. There's the book called The Slight Edge, and I love this book because he talks about minor changes that you could make that can change the entire trajectory of your life. What if you woke up 20 minutes earlier and read something inspiring to start your day? What if that unlocked something in your brain that made you take a different position, different role, different trajectory in your life? Maybe it's a substance you need to stop taking. Maybe it's a decision that you're taking some substance that is holding you down from becoming the true person that you know is inside of you. Maybe you just need to treat somebody a little bit better. That's the decision you have to make. But think about the decisions you're making on a daily basis, and sometimes it's the smallest decision ever. But what decision can you make a little bit differently that may have a positive upswing, hugely different effect on your life, and make it? This is the podcast. You listen to this episode for a reason. And I think that reason is, you know, there's a decision you need to make. As soon as you hit stop on this episode, make that decision and commit to it and go all in on it. You never know. You may be the next Eminem in whatever business or whatever success you're looking to achieve. I am so glad you stopped by today. I love sharing that story. I shared it on our Healthy Habits Nation Facebook page. Please check that out. We're doing live, free virtual workouts every Saturday morning at 8 o'clock in the morning. Every Monday night at 8:30, I go live to share something in the healthy living space, something inspirational, motivational, or healthy that you can run with. Come join us. I'm Matt Scoletti. I'm out of here. Much love to you all. Have a great rest of your week. We'll see you next time.